Hello everybody and welcome to a new series on X4, the 4.1 Ultimate Beginner's Guide. I like to do a beginner's guide for each major update. Generally I kind of stick with a 3.0 and then there was like 3.4, 4.0, but with 4.1 there has been so much added to the game that I feel like addressing these within a guide will help new players. If you're an experienced player, this episode will certainly help if you're not familiar with the custom start modes, but everything else throughout the beginning of this will probably not relate to yourself because you'll probably already know most of it. However, there will be some things to do with like trading stations and stuff like that, and the advancements of trading as a overall, the mining changes and stuff like that will all be covered, and ways on how you can get around some of the changes in terms of the restriction with mining, the solar differences and stuff like that, to just basically boost your economy, because there are certain things you can do depending on what start you do that will allow you to have a better prospect in the game. Now, as I say, this is mainly to do with very new players, those who are touching X4 for the first time. However, if there is something that you require assistance with that you haven't seen covered previously, or you've been searching and you haven't been able to find it, or it's just been overlooked, or it's in a mass of many other videos, then please let me know in the comment section below and I will prioritize covering that in this series. This series will try to cover as much as possible for those of you who are trying to learn the X4 game, and I do know sometimes there are things you want to do before other things, whereas we all have different ways and paths in how to play games like this. The beauty of X4 is this is your universe. I'm going to stress that point because that is what the game is based off. This is a universe, a living universe for a solo player. There are mentions of multiplayer, and the online feature at this stage on 4.1 is currently disabled. However, when the multiplayer arrives, you are on a multi-universe style gameplay. Therefore, your universe relatively remains the same, owing to the differences, obviously, from the missions and whatnot that may arrive from multiplayer. However, this is your universe. Why is that important? Because everything you do will have a reaction, cause and effect. You know, whatever you want to look at, it will have some form of thing. Why is that important? Because when you go through to playing this game, you need to decide early on what you want to do. Do you want to try and be friendly with factions? Because some factions hate other factions. So if you try to help one faction, you could hinder yourself with another. My suggestion is to check out some of the later gameplay videos from some of the players, such as Captain Collins, myself, and other players that are out there who do play this at the later game stage, because some of the ships you may enjoy looking at. The starter menu shows you the Terran ships currently, because 4.0 brought in the Terran faction, so therefore we're seeing a lot of the Terran ships here. However, there are some brilliant ships on other factions as well. Without further ado, let's talk about new game starting. There have been some adjustments to this from 4.0 and 4.1 that I want to address. The first one is the tutorials. I don't like to speak ill of tutorials. However, personally, when I first started trying to play the game, trying to learn a tutorial for X4 was extremely overwhelming. There is no easy way of learning this game. It is a universe. You are learning an entire simulation. How to fly in it, how to survive in it, how to trade in it, how to mine in it, how to make money, how to stay alive. You know, what are enemies? Where are the enemies? Where are they coming from? How do I locate them? What sectors can I go to? What are sectors? How do these sectors work? How do we jump between them? All of these things all happen at once. Therefore, it's very hard to take away one thing from it and try and teach you that. However, during this guide, that is exactly what I'm going to try and do. Combat scenario, flight school, and advanced gameplay. They are the three tutorials you have, and three that are potentially worth having a gander at, but taken with a pinch of salt, because they may not necessarily work for you and your playstyle. Foundations is exactly as it is, the foundation. The initial X4 universe without expansions. The expansions are included if you've purchased them. However, that is the initial starts that you used to have. The Young Gun, the Unworthy Entrepreneur, the dedicated warrior, the untested explorer, and the accomplished scientist. Each one of them fall under a category which give you starter missions that allow you to progress in certain ways. The young gun is basically like a free-for-all. The unworthy entrepreneur is one where you're going around trying to sell stuff, or you want to be a pirate, whatever you want to do, stuff like that. Warrior is, as it says on the tin, you're going around blowing stuff up. Explorer, you're going around scouting, looking for things, getting information. Maybe you want data, stuff like that. All that boils down to the explorer, and the scientist is obviously one that conducts the research, but overall they all will follow the similar pattern. Then you get the Split Vendetta. If you've purchased a Split Vendetta expansion, which I do highly recommend you look at, then you get the Fires of Defeat and the Spear of the Patriarch, which are two factions within the Split Vendetta that you start on. One will be friendly, one will not be friendly, and vice versa. Then we get Cradle of Humanity, which is the 4.0 expansion. Obviously, you gain 4.0 whether you've got the expansion or not. However, if you do have the Cradle of Humanity expansion, you then get access to Terran, the Terran Cadet, or the Project Genesis. To check out more of this, then you can definitely check out the latest gameplay that I've had from the beginning, and it will show you some of the missions that you can complete as the Terran Cadet. As it says on the tin, you are a cadet within the Terran Empire, or whatever you want to call it, and you complete missions and it runs through. The Project Genesis runs alongside it within your universe. You don't technically gain access to this straight off the bat, but there are ways you can gain the Project Genesis missions and basically complete it as well. However, if you complete Project Genesis first, then obviously you are mainly looking at that, which brings you to the same point basically. Then we get the 4.1 additions, the custom game starts and the station design simulator. I'm not going to go into too much detail about the station design simulator on this episode, because this is more of an introduction to the 4.1 guide that you will be having access to over the next few weeks. But I also wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about the two custom game starts, and I don't want to bog our time down with the design simulator. The design simulator, in a nutshell, is basically your free reign to design stations. You can then save these plans, export these plans, and import them into your own game. Brilliant for those who are new and experienced. The fiddly bit about doing stuff like that is that when you're doing station designs, they can be really awkward to move things around. It takes a while to get used to, but once you're used to it, it's like rotation element and stuff like that, you can now build on not necessarily a linear path, which is what we had in the past. As you can see on the start menu as we're going past here, everything is in a nice uniform straight line. That is from the old style of modules. Since 4.1, we can now make adjustment to the modules in terms of the rotation on multiple angles. So now the XYZ angle basically comes into play. So as you can see on the far side there, over by the planet, you've got like the solar panels. What you could have done now is you could have actually adjusted the angles of the solar panels so that they're all at different angles, or they all look like they're all facing the sun angle. You know, they're not flat like they are there. They're completely flat and uniformal, I should say, with the docking station that's on the top there. Not only that, but you could then take the storage that's underneath, that large, like with the cylindrical sections on the bottom, you could take that, rotate it completely 45 degrees, slot it on the side if you had the access port to it, or 90 degrees and put it onto the edge of one of the panels if you wanted. You can put one on each end of the panels as well. That's the flexibility you have with it. However, there are a lot of things that we can get into that, and how to utilize your space and stuff like that, and some other bits and bobs you can do with the station design simulator that we will go into at a later stage. Right now, let's talk about the two new modes. The first one, custom game editor budgeted, and the second one, custom game editor creative. Let's just go back a second because I double clicked there. Custom game editor budgeted bases its currency. It has a currency, which we'll go into in a moment, on what you have already done in X4. For those who are returning to X4, this is a brilliant gameplay start, because what we'll see in a moment is that you can adjust a lot of things based off what you've already done in the past. This is post 4.1. It does not remember what you've already done. It's not legacy. So unfortunately, everything you've done in the past won't count towards it, but whatever you do now will count towards it, or at least that's what I found anyway. I seem to have a low budget compared to some people that I've seen. However, my game stage is a lot further on. That might be meaning that I need to go through with a different story and stuff like that, which is handy because we're now doing a 4.1 guide, so I'll complete some of these missions that I have technically not completed in the eyes of the budgeted custom game editor. Creative removes all of that budgeting, but what it does do is counts your games as modified games, therefore they're not eligible to be used on multiplayer. At this current stage, doesn't really matter, but I can guarantee you when multiplayer comes out, players like myself and others that I know will have a force built up, have a lot of credits built up, have a infrastructure built up, ready to go for when the online mode enables. If you're playing modified, you will not have access to this, and therefore you will be starting from the beginning, on the back foot right from the beginning. So bear that in mind, because when the multiplayer does come, you want to be getting ready to go into it, because there are rewards that come from it, or so we have been advised. Let's have a look at the detail of budgeted. Creative is exactly the same, except there are none of the budgets that are at the bottom here. So what do we see here? Well, as you can see, there are certain things that affect each one of these. The player themselves is, as you would expect, the player. Yes, we can now customize the player, and you get a choice of what you have available. So I have Terran, I have the Split, the Taladi Parad, and the Argon, which are the factions that are in there. Obviously, you can't have the Boron and stuff like that. What you get? The Terran, because you've got Cradle of Humanity. Different hairstyles, or different hair colours at the very least. Excellent. Obviously the female versions as well there. And the models aren't too bad to be fair. Obviously you got your Split, which just look pissed off. Your Taladi, Prophets. Your Paranid, which are the god people. And your Argons as well, which are basically humans. Okay, your starting balance, you can increase and decrease your starting balance. You can now start off with plenty of credits to get going. So where previously you had the problems where you couldn't get the credits, now you can get credits. What I suggest is if you're a new player, have a look and see if you can have a budgeted start to see if you can gain some more credits, because the more credits you have, the easier it's going to be to start. Let's get 1 million credits here. There we go. You can also add words to your inventory. Very, very useful. Some of these are extremely expensive, but you can get a setter. I can afford a setter. If I wanted to, I can place a setter in there. You notice that this has like an orange hue to it, because I have this setter accepted there, and obviously I've adjusted the character, I've adjusted my starting balance, and I've adjusted my inventory. Blueprints, you can add blueprints. You can already start off with some blueprints, and it has every blueprint in there as well, including ships, missiles, drones, consumables, all that kind of stuff. Preferred build method, based off race, universal or Terran. It also tells you what they mean. The default build method used by your empire, this can be changed later. Default ship skins. All your default ship skins are in there. I think I was using Saffron. I believe if you click it, it should, no, it doesn't give us a look. So you'll have to remember what that one is, unfortunately. As you can see here, the ones that I adjust are in orange. This is budgeted, so everything we do here will stand. It means it's not a modified game. You will get away with playing this on multiplayer. Starting ship. You can change your starting ship. This is extremely useful because it now gives you the option to decide how you want to play the game and still get all the starting missions. These here now count towards personal. So if I wanted to say go for a medium ship instead, we'll go for a medium. Let's go for a medium small. We'll go for a gunboat. High presets. That's a pretty cool ship. It's a medium ship, so it's going to take a lot more hitting. So when we had the issues before where we had a couple of pirates appearing, you're not going to be bothered with that. It's going to cost me 36,810 personnel. and 11 million in money. Let's confirm it and see how it hits us. Ship has been adjusted, so it's now in yellow. My starting salary now, money, is still 14,165,000 credits. Out of 133 million. But my personnel now is set to 36,810, which is what the ship has cost me. What does that mean? Well, if you hover over it, it actually tells you your personal budget increases with the skill levels of your pilots and managers. So in your game, as you level your pilots and managers up, then this number here will increase. If you have a game full of level 5 managers and pilots, then you can imagine how big that number is going to be. Property also counts towards it. If you want to add stations, you can also choose where your stations are going to be. Very, very useful. So you can actually start off with, you can't start off with that headquarters, but you can start off with a wharf if you wanted. The wharf is actually put in the sector there. And if we click, you can see it moves. You can have it anywhere you want. The price, I believe, changes to where it's at. No, still the same price. Excellent. But that is an insane amount of money. It's like 1.1 billion. So that puts us well over our credits. Now you can see that everything has turned to orange, including my money. This tells me that there is a problem and I can't start the game anymore. Your chosen start conditions are over budget. Please reduce the marked budgets or choose the creative custom game start for an unrestricted but modified game. So I know because it's highlighting and telling me it's the money. So if we just take the wharf out of it, there we go, remove it, you can see our money drops to 128 million. That's now actually counting our ship because our ship was expensive. Let's count something else though. Player. Yes, it's actually putting in the blueprints you required to build the station. Bear that in mind. I forgot to mention that. So you can keep them if you want, or you can remove them all again so that you don't have to pay for them. But you have to pay for all these blueprints. But you can choose what blueprints you pick. There we go. You can see our credits have dropped down massively again. Right, the universe. You can start in a sector that of your choosing. You can also choose which sectors you know. These count as your knowledge. Exploring new systems, finding interesting items and locations, and unlocking timeline entries all reward you with an increased knowledge budget. These count towards these, so the more knowledge you have in your previous games, the more knowledge you can place in this game. A brilliant feature. Faction. We've done universe, haven't we? Yep, done universe. Faction relations. You can now increase and decrease your faction reputation, meaning you can actually set who you want to go to war with before you've even started. For example, if you don't want to play with the Yaki, boom, you drop it right down. -30. This will not be a friendly faction. Known to player, you can hit that, and you can see known faction 2000 knowledge there. And you'll know the Yaki straight off the bat. So maybe you want the Yaki to be friendly to you. Well, then you'd have to bring it all the way up here. So let's say they're completely friendly with you. You can see now our relations has gone over budget because we don't have the relations here. But what we can do, I do believe, is if we drop that there. No, that doesn't count. Does it not? No. I thought that might have reduced it. This all sticks to basically your relationships within your gameplay. As I constantly go to war with people, I tend not to win that. But what you could easily do here is just drop it down to 15. As you can see, it drops the relation massively because we're not relying on it to be friendly. You can see that that increases quite considerably. As a matter of fact, you can have anything up above 0. I think it's -10. Yeah, above -10 allows you to trade. So I have it on +5. You know the faction, barely uses any reputation. You can even adjust them all. As a matter of fact, I think you can probably get away with having them all. Yep. Every faction is now friendly to you. Look at that. And we've used 15 relation points. Story states HQ with Bosatar. Do you have an HQ? You do now. Power in situation. I haven't completed the power in situation. I never did it. Split doesn't count because I've done it without 4.1. Town Covert Ops exactly the same. Yaki situation exactly the same. And I've done the Project Genesis after 4.1. So I do have the Project Genesis complete. So you can choose now to skip some of these missions that you've already done in the past, which is brilliant. And that's basically it for our custom game start. You can see the budget is well in budget there, so this as is already better than what we would normally do. You can actually hide the story states. I did not notice that, and it removes the spoilers. Fabulous. This is a much better start than standard gameplay. Consider it even as a new player. See what you can get out of it. You don't necessarily need to have a massive amount. 14,000 credits. My starting balance is 1,000 credits. My starting ship's 11,000k. That's a pretty decent ship. However, it isn't a mining ship, so I might consider getting a mining ship. What's even better is we could go to property and go to add fleet. And then we go here, small miner, my presets, confirm. We're just over halfway now, but I've now got myself a Korean mineral ship. So I've got a mining ship now. So not only do I have my combat ship, I now have a mining ship to do the mining for me. So now you don't have to buy a mining ship. Play around with it, see what you can get out of it. If you've got a starting budget of 10,000, you might be able to drop that down and buy yourself a ship before you've even started. That makes it a lot easier to go into this. However, if you're a new player, this is Custom Game Start. If you want to see how this has come about, then make sure you check out Captain Collins when he covered this during the beta of 4.1 with a few of the bugs and stuff like that. But I think what they've finally settled down to, you know, you can even add your research that you've done as well. Like obviously in my current one, I've done teleportation to level 2. I'm currently doing level 3. Modifying means it's modifying my game state. But I can complete all the research that I've done in the previous time. If you've completed all of these researches, you don't have to do them again. Unfortunately, it only counts if you've done it after 4.1. Hopefully this has helped you have a look into the new game start modes and what to do and what not to do, especially as a new player. Take your time, have a look at some of the other players that play the game. If they've got guides, not even necessarily my guide plays my kind of play style. You might prefer Captain Collins' playstyle or other players that play this game. There are a lot of people who will give you their opinions and views on how to start the game. Custom game mode completely changes all of that now and allows you to set yourself up before you've even started. If worse comes to worse, have a dabble at doing a couple of games and trying to get yourself into it and just build up the starting money starter. All you need to do, as it says there, increase your money budget by trading, buying ships and building stations. Trade a little bit. Find some crystals. Trade them. If you don't know what I'm on about, have a look at some of the earlier episodes that I've done in my 4.0 guide. They still technically count towards what it would do. But that is it for this episode. What we're going to do is in the next episode, we're going to have a look at starting. We will do a budget start that's a little bit similar to this. Just so I've got a bit more freedom. As a matter of fact, I will probably try and do the Terran start or something like that. Just so that you can see from the beginning where it's not actually buffeted by the budgets. That'd probably be better. But yeah, if there's anything you'd like to see, let me know in the comment section. I can do another one with the custom starts to see the effects of it. Anything like that. As I say, as always, let me know in the comment section. But until next time, everybody, take care for now. I shall see you all on the next one. Bye-bye for now.